Speaker a curveball on a family-friendly issue in Congress. White House correspondent Greg Clugston reports.
Late last week, the president endorsed a proposal that would allow new parents in Congress to vote by proxy rather than in person. That position put him squarely against Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson, who has aggressively tried to kill that bill. The president told reporters, "If you're having a baby, I think you should be able to call in and vote. I'm in favor of that," he said. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky met British Admiral Anthony Radakin and French General Thierry Burkhard in Kiev yesterday. They discussed a potential deployment of a multinational peacekeeping force to Ukraine. The death toll from a Russian missile strike in the central Ukrainian city of Kryvyi Rih has risen to 19, including several children. Scientists have developed something that could help translate thoughts into real-time speech.
A new device could put a voice to the thoughts in our brain. Scientists say it would help those unable to speak. The device is in the experimental phase, but has already proven successful. The new study described testing the device on a 47-year-old quadriplegic woman who had not spoken for 18 years after a stroke. Gopala Anumanchipalli, co-author of the study published in the Nature Neuroscience Journal, says the device translates thoughts into real-time spoken words. The device was surgically implanted into the woman's brain during the clinical trial. Researchers built a synthesizer that used a recording of her voice before her injury to create speech similar to hers. I'm Marcela Sanchez.
The confirmed death toll from last month's massive earthquake in Myanmar has risen to 3,455 as UN agencies and foreign aid donors ramp up emergency efforts. The 7.7 quake hit a wide swath of the country. This is SRN News.
Have you ever taken your family to dinner and been shocked at how expensive the bill was? Or gone to the doctor and been surprised by a large bill that was sent to you later in the mail? There is over $22 trillion in U.S. tax-deferred retirement accounts like the IRA and 401k. So do you know how much you will owe in taxes on those accounts in the future? Hi. I'm Rebecca Walser, principal of Walser Wealth Management and a tax attorney. And right now I want you to think about how much you've saved in your own deferred retirement accounts, whether it's $250,000 or more. Guess what? That is not all of your money. You will have to pay those taxes in retirement as you withdraw it when you have no income. At Walser Wealth, we created a retirement tax bill calculator to show you what you will pay in future taxes on your accounts, and it's free for you to use. Go to mytaxtest.com. Knowledge is only power when it's followed by action. Knowing your future taxes, we can show you strategies that might help you lower them and lower your tax burden overall in the future. For now, use our free tax calculator, mytaxtest.com, mytaxtest.com.
At Simple Path Retirement, we are not bankers or broker-dealers. We are registered independent advisors who have the ability to focus on your best interest. Visit SimplePathRetirement.com.
Just when you thought your smartphone couldn't get any smarter, now you can add the AM860 app with local news, national headlines, and commentary. The answer is smart. Adding the AM860 app to your smartphone is genius. Get it now at the Apple App Store and Google Play.
For today, mostly sunny and warm, breezy conditions this afternoon with a high of 89. For tonight, clear and warm conditions, low 73. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, breezy and humid with a thunderstorm in spots in the afternoon with a high of 85. Get your weather news when and how you want it, wherever you are. Download our free app or visit AccuWeather.com. That's your AccuWeather forecast. I'm Caitlin Lawrence for AM 860, The Answer.
The following program is sponsored by Bay Area Medical Can Care Clinic.
Good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Bill, your Radio MD. Are you there, AJ?
I am here, sir. How are you today?
Good. How you doing, buddy?
If I am breathing, I'm achieving, so I can't complain.
There you go. Take a deep one, then.
Yes, sir. And how are you on this glorious day?
I'm feeling pretty good. I can't complain. It's been a low-key week. Things are slowing down. A lot of the Canadians are going back up north, and of course, we still have our American base, but I think the Canadians are all scared. You know, the tariff war and their dollar. They call it the loonie, Loonie, because it's got a loon. You know, a duck.
Right.
It's a coin. It's a dollar coin, and they have a picture of a loon on it, and so they call their dollar the loonie. And so, you know, it's about a third to half the value of the U.S. dollar. So they really do struggle if they're if they're not wealthy, they come down here and chunk out a lot of money. Of course, they save some money because they close down their homes and they don't have the heating bills in the winter. And food and booze and a lot of other things are cheaper down here. Booze is so expensive in Canada. I mean, you just cannot believe it. You got to be rich to be a drunk.
At least up there.
Yeah, it's a tough situation for them, but hopefully we'll get some of this trade war ironed out before the next season, so we have a good busy practice next year during the winter. And it looks like countries are starting to cave in. The Chinese are puffing up their chest and adding on tariffs to American goods. But I don't know where they're going to find a market. They think that they can sell to the Russians, but, the Russians, they're nowhere near our level of affluence. And they're, half the size that we are, maybe less.
Yeah, I don't see it going too long. I don't think they can hold out for too long.
No, I don't think so. And the Vietnamese have caved in. The British are talking. The Israelis are coming over here to talk. Everybody's getting on the phone and calling the president or his team and saying, what can we do? And I mean, it's real simple. You lower your tariffs. You increase your defense spending if you're in the NATO. I mean, there's no mystery to it.
I think everybody thought it was just a bluff for a while.
No.
And then all of a sudden he does put on the tariffs, and now they're like, oh, well, now we really got to reconsider this.
Yeah, and there's all kinds of hysteria surrounding it. And I have Canadian patients who say, well, we don't charge 250% tariff on milk and milk products. Well, if you look at the agreement, there's a small amount of dairy products that are allowed into Canada duty-free, and after that, then they do put a 250% tariff on. And, a lot of the Canadians would like to have things like American-made yogurt. And so there is some concern, I think, with the Canadians, and there is some pushback. And, of course, our American farmers are going to have a hard time for a while, but I'm sure Washington will step up and give them some financial aid because we need those guys.
Which is well needed and should have been done a long time ago.
Yeah, and there are certain things that Canada has an abundance of that we do not. They have the northern spruce, which is the preferred lumber for building homes. We have the southern pine, which is a harder wood, and I guess it's a little harder to work with than the northern spruce, but apparently the tariffs on lumber imports have been dropped already. So that's not going to affect, at least in terms of framing the house, it's not going to affect us a whole lot.
Right. And I don't see much. I mean, I know snowbirds, and I know I wouldn't want to be up in Canada whenever it gets that cold. That's for sure. I'd definitely still try to make my way a little bit closer to the equator somewhere.
Yeah. And one of my Canadian patients said, don't worry, Doc. Once that first snow hits,
everybody's coming back.
They'll be clamoring to get down here. And this really is a beautiful spot. In Florida is just a wonderful place to spend your winters. It's been going on for, 150 years now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people have been coming down here since, 1860s, 70s, when the railroads first came through the state. And I think St. Augustine and the Panhandle were probably one of the first areas that vacationers and snowbirds came down to. And then they got the train to go all the way down the coast and drain the swamp, and there you got Miami. So
yep, and even all the others, even some of the other southern states. I mean, Texas is huge for snowbirds, and everywhere.
Everywhere's big for snowbirds, and a lot of them go to Cuba and Mexico and some of the Latin American countries.
That just seems a little scary to me.
Yeah, I think this is much safer here. It just depends, I guess, on where you are. If you go to some cities in Mexico, they're safer than the United States cities. But if you go to Mexico City or Acapulco or one of the big tourist centers, and you might end up getting into some problems.
Yeah, I mean, even in like Progresso or Reynosa or anything like that, there's some sketchy neighborhoods around there, like everywhere, I guess.
Yep. So we want to make sure we get things ironed out before the next season so Dr. Bill has something to do. And if you look behind me, I got a patient with measles, a child with measles, and you can see the rash that has become confluent. That is, starts out little individual lesions, and then they coalesce and come together, and we call that confluence. And the measles has become a big deal for Health and Human Services, and apparently there is a lot of criticism of Kennedy because he was an anti-vacciner, at least when he was in the primary stage and running for a spot as the president. I don't know if he's going to change. I think he's starting to say, yeah, go get vaccinated. And we had eliminated measles by 2000 in the United States. It did not exist within our population.
Right.
But then when the borders were opened up by Obama and again by Biden, a lot of people came in who were unvaccinated, and they brought kids, and their kids had measles, and they spread it quickly. This is the most easily spread infectious disease that we know of. So it's airborne, so it's a respiratory virus, believe it or not, comes in through the airway, and there's a prodrome of 7 to 14 days. So after exposure, you may not have any symptoms for 1 to 2 weeks. And then you end up with a cold-like syndrome and headache and fever, and the rash starts, and you get Koplik spots, which are little lesions, little spots on your buccal mucosa. Your buccal mucosa is your inside of your cheek, and that's fairly pathognomonic of measles. So if you open the kiddo's mouth and you look in there back by their back molars, you'll see these little sand-like spots surrounded by red erythematous regions, and these lesions are exclusive to measles, as far as I know. Now, this is also known as rubeola, and the prevention is easy. It's a vaccination. The anti-vacciners keep referring back to autism and the study that was done by 2 Englishmen, a doctor and a PhD, who lied back in the 90s and falsified their data. One went to prison. The other one got kicked out of the medical community, and they blamed it on thimerosal, which is one of the preservatives that we use in vaccines, because it was a live attenuated vaccine for a while, and we also have a killed vaccine. And between 1963 and 67, I believe we used a killed vaccine. It might have been a live attenuated vaccine, I forget which, but that was not as effective, and we went back to the older vaccines. Now, when I was a kid, we didn't have these vaccines when I was growing up in the 50s. So if somebody got measles or chicken pox, our parents would take us over to their house and we'd spend the night with the other kids.
That's exactly what happened to us.
Yeah, because if you have the disease, then you'll develop lifelong immunity to it unless you have some other problem like HIV, or you're on cancer treatment, or you have leukemia or some other disease that interferes with your immune system and the production of the antibodies that protect us. So this is a big deal in terms of the cost on the healthcare system. There have been some deaths, and a lot of these kids end up in the hospital because they get dehydrated, and they need IV fluids. And of course, they have high fevers and sore throats and headaches, and break out in these rashes. So this is, although it is not a, how should I put it, not a major catastrophic event for the country, it certainly is for the kids and the families that have this. And of course, there's a lot of hysteria that goes along with it. And this has been hyped up, of course, by the press, not this press, but other presses. So I think that probably a third of the kids now are going to the hospital. In the old days, that would have never happened. They would have just left you at home, and you know.
I remember my brothers and I, well, it was chicken pox. And that's my main question. What's the major difference between like measles, chicken pox, shingles? How do you kind of differentiate, or what's the difference in those?
Well, chicken pox is a virus that causes an outbreak of kind of raised lesions on the skin. And of course, you can get all the symptoms that you get with most viruses, but it can leave scars, although it's unusual, and it's caused by the varicella. I'm sorry, it's caused by one of the herpetic viruses, herpes family viruses, and you can carry that with you for the rest of your life. The chickenpox virus can hide up in different parts of the immune system and in the nervous system. And then as you get older and you lose immunity, they can come back out and cause shingles. So if you've had chickenpox, you're more susceptible to shingles. Shingles is not spread by contact or by air or respiratory system. It is already in us. And so that's a problem because, boy, when you see a bad case of shingles, you've got a really unhappy patient. It hurts.
Oh,
And
my
you-
wife got it at 25, and she would just, in her sleep, just start itching and scratching and just being in so much pain. I had to put socks on her hands. I had to hold her hands down sometime because it was just, she didn't get chickenpox when she was a kid, even though her mom, like all the rest of the mothers, always put us all the kids that had chickenpox, she put the ones that don't all together in a room and they sleep there and they catch it and then everything's done. But she got it at a late age, and it was tough for me to deal with and just see her in that much pain. It was really bad.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable, especially as you get older. When you're a kid, you can weather a lot of these viral infections much easier. So the German measles and rubeola, 3-day measles, these are also viruses, but they cause a flat kind of rash that spreads and becomes confluent, runs together. Chickenpox, the little raised lesions, they stay discrete. That is, they don't coalesce with one another. And the problem that we ran into with some of the vaccinations back in the 60s was that chickenpox was almost completely eliminated, and we were vaccinating kids, and those who had immune deficiencies could develop a very serious case of chickenpox. And so we ended up stopping the chickenpox vaccines back in the late 60s, and same with I think they're doing it again now, and the same with the God, I'm drawing a blank here. I'll think of it in a minute. With one of the other viruses, the smallpox that we used to vaccinate for, that was a big problem because these kids that were immune deficient, they would get smallpox-like disease, and so we definitely stopped smallpox vaccines decades ago.
Gotcha. So back on measles, if you get symptoms or anything, is it, since it's more respiratory, is it something that's just got to run its course, or can you catch it early and stop it without so much pain, or how does that work?
There's no known treatment for it. Now, there is prophylaxis, so you can get hyperimmune gamma globulin, which is gamma globulin that's taken from patients who've had the chickenpox and they have high levels of the IgG antibody to the virus. And you can give that to somebody who's been exposed but has not had a vaccination. A lot of these people will still get a mild case, but there's no medicines to treat this. It's all symptomatic treatment. You can diagnose it with viral cultures, and you can draw antibody levels. So IgM is the acute antibody that fights infections as they come into the body, and then IgG is the long-term one. So if several days into the disease, you could draw an IgM to verify that this is the culprit, that it's this virus. But really, I don't think anybody's doing that on any large scale. Maybe the CDC does it in some areas and for specific cases to try and track the disease as it moves around through the country, and and they can predict where the virus is going to break out next. And that's part of the epidemiologic aspects of the CDC and the epidemiologists. They look at large-scale outbreaks of diseases and try to figure out how to prevent and treat these things. But the best prevention for this is to get immunized. So the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine is pretty commonly given, and I think they've added a fourth thing to it, and I forget what that is because I'm not in pediatrics, but you can get these shots in kids, I believe, before they're a year old, and then they have lifelong immunity to a lot of these diseases. So prevention is the treatment here. And thimerosal does not cause, there's no evidence to show that it causes autism. And the people that are bantering this about are dealing in hysteria and in false science. And remember, these two guys had pushed this in Great Britain. One went to jail. He went to jail.
Wow.
I think that was a PhD, and the MD lost his license. So it's really a shame that we have these anti-vacciners. And a lot of the people that decide they don't want to vaccinate their children are educated 30-something women, college-level women.
Really, that's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. The hysteria is just too much, and I think this is probably more common in women than men. More emotional response. They have a bigger emotional part of their brain than we do, and the guys are like, get the shot and shut up.
Yeah, and that's backfired on me before. I know I went and got my son a shot, and I came home. It's like we asked the doctor. He said it was a good idea. We did it. We were all in agreement. And then she came in and said, I didn't give you permission. You shouldn't have done that. We weren't going to do. I was like, whoa, I'm sorry. I was just doing what I thought was best and what the doctor said was best. I thought I was doing a good thing here.
Yep. And it used to be that you couldn't get into school, public or parochial, unless you had all your immunizations up to date. And now there's these religious groups that are saying that, we have a religious bias against the vaccines, and so these kids get a special pass and they don't have to be vaccinated. We can be tricky, though, we can be tricky. So like when the live attenuated polio vaccine came out in the late 50s, on one Sunday across the whole country, all the kids had to go to school, and we went into the lunchroom, and everybody got a little sugar cube with a drop of this live attenuated, weakened means weakened vaccine. And so the next day or two, we all had a mild case of polio. And since this is a respiratory illness as well as an enteral virus, we were coughing on the other kids who didn't show up. Guess what? Everybody got vaccinated whether they wanted it or not. So we do have some tricks in our armamentarium up our sleeves. It's not completely hopeless, but remember that this virus has been brought in by immigrants and illegal immigrants as well, who have come across primarily the southern border, and that's why you see it in Texas, starting there and then spreading out from there. Now, the World Health Organization says that, and I think that Kennedy also said taking vitamin A supplementation should be implemented. I'm not a big fan of the World Health Organization, but what the heck, give it a try. And there's certain dosages depending on your age and your body weight and all that. A couple of doses of vitamin A aren't going to do a whole lot of damage to you. I mean, that's a normal vitamin that we need. We should be getting enough of that in our diets, and I'm sure that the baby formulas have that in there. So it's a fascinating phenomena, and one that certainly deserves discussion, because we really do need vaccines. If you look at the course of human history, what has made the most difference in cutting down on infant and childhood mortality and prolonging life? Vaccinations, without a doubt. And any vaccination that comes out, I take it. I don't care what it is.
I don't blame you. I always think an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. That's what I've been taught my whole life. So why wouldn't I?
Yeah. And why would you not want to participate in something that has been tried and shown safe by hundreds of millions, billions of people around the world? It doesn't make any sense. It's illogical, it's emotional, it's irrational, but that's the way some people are. What can you do?
Nope. What can you do?
So what's going on with Judge Boasberg? Is he still going after Trump and trying to shut down the deportation of all these illegal aliens who are criminals?
Him and everybody else on the planet.
I think there was one person that the left-wingers are trying to say was illegally or wrongfully or didn't deserve to be deported to El Salvador and put in a prison. But he was a member of MS-13, and I'm sure that there were some things that he did or had connections with. So it doesn't hurt my feelings.
Yeah, me neither. Before we get into that, you want to go ahead and take a quick commercial break, and then we'll dig deeper into that?
You do it, my friend. I'm with you.
All right. But we do want to try to give away one of those cool coffee mugs that you have. So earlier in the program, you were talking about measles and how they can be on the buccal mucosa. Am I saying that correctly?
You got it.
All right. Where is the buccal mucosa? Dr. Bill said it earlier. We're looking for you right now. 813-282-8283. We're listening for you right now. 813-282-8283. We'll be right back.
Be right back.
While Dennis Prager is recuperating at PragerTopia.com, hear the Happiness Hour, Celebrity Guest Day, Male-Female Hour, Ultimate Issues Hour, and Open Lines. PragerTopia.com.
With SRN News, I'm Michael Harrington in Washington. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky met British Admiral Anthony Radakin and French General Terry Burkhard in Kiev yesterday to discuss the potential deployment of a multinational peacekeeping force to Ukraine. The death toll from a Russian missile strike Friday in the central Ukrainian city of Kryvyi Rih has risen to 19, including several children. The regional governor says a further 75 people were wounded. A confirmed death toll now from last month's massive earthquake in Myanmar, 3,455 people. UN agencies and foreign aid donors are ramping up their emergency relief efforts. The 7.7 magnitude quake hit a wide swath of the country March 28th, causing significant damage to 6 regions and states, including the capital. This is SRN News.
Dr. Bill for Bay Area Medical, located at 6399 38th Avenue North in St. Pete, 727-384-6411, 727-384-6411. Full-service clinic with x-ray, heart imaging, ultrasound, stress testing, and minor surgery. We provide quality health care in a warm and friendly atmosphere. We are multilingual, well-trained, and certified. Most American insurance and new patients accepted. Bay Area Medical, home of Can Care, 727-384-6411. 727-384-6411.
Dr. Bill here. With social distancing and sheltering in place, telemedicine is here. Bay Area Medical Home of Can Care Clinic offers telemedicine for new and established patients. You can see me without an in-office visit. Schedule an appointment at 727-384-6411, 727-384-6411. When it's time for your appointment, type this web address into your cell phone or computer web browser, doxy.me/Bay Area Med. A cell phone works well and is all you really need. For computers, you need a web camera and speakers. We'll give you this address when you call for your appointment. We accept most insurances and travel insurances. Canadians and visitors, please call your travel insurance company for an authorization number prior to the visit. Copays and deductibles apply. Self-pay rates are available. Just ask. We accept credit cards, PayPal, and Stripe. 727-384-6411, 727-384-6411.
Dr. Bill here. My friends at St. Pete MRI and Sleep Diagnostics
Diagnostics are your best choice for state-of-the-art MRI, CT, and sleep studies. Quality unsurpassed. 25 years experience makes St. Pete MRI my go-to imaging center. Self-pay rates are competitive and out-of-pocket cost a fraction of a hospital. Conveniently accessible from both sides of the bay at 750 94th Avenue North, St. Pete, near the Gandy. 727-577-2220, 727-577-2220.
Get your daily dose of Dennis Prager at PragerTopia.com. Hear the Happiness Hour, Celebrity Guest Day, Male-Female Hour, Ultimate Issues Hour, and Open Lines. PragerTopia.com.
For today, mostly sunny and warm, breezy conditions this afternoon with a high of 89. For tonight, clear and warm conditions, low 73. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, breezy, and humid with a thunderstorm in spots in the afternoon with a high of 85. Get your weather news when and how you want it, wherever you are. Download our free app or visit AccuWeather.com. That's your AccuWeather forecast. I'm Caitlin Lawrence for AM 860, The Answer.
We're back. AJ, you there, buddy?
Of course I am.
Oh, thank God for that. I hate being alone on Sunday morning.
As do I.
So, Bossberg has made all these rulings, and he's trying to say that people were deported without a hearing, and there are elements of this that may or may not be constitutional under the Alien Enemies Act, which was passed back in the 1790s when President Adams and the Federalists were trying to keep us out of the European World War. As you know, Napoleon and the British and everybody, they were going at it. And we even had a little naval battle in the Caribbean with the French. Did you know that?
I did not know that one.
Yeah. Cannons were fired. And, of course, the Democratic Republicans, that was Thomas Jefferson and his gang, they wanted to help the French because of the French Revolution. You know, they thought that that was going to end up like the United States, where they would have a free and open democracy. And Alexander Hamilton wisely said, no, this will end up in a new Caesar and a new dictatorship. And guess what? It did, because anarchy always ends up in a dictatorship.
Right.
It just doesn't work. Anarchy doesn't work. At any rate, so the Alien Enemies Act was one of the bills that was passed by Congress, and most of what was passed was overturned by the Supreme Court in the early 19th century, but this stands, and so it's still on the books and it's still in effect. But the one thing that the Judge Bossberg, is, am I pronouncing it right? Bossberg?
I think so, yeah.
Is under Rule 65C of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. A party seeking an injunction needs to put up a bond to cover the cost of litigation, and they aren't optional; they're mandatory. And so he has not demanded that the bond be put up. So his ruling is unconstitutional; it's illegal. So, you know, and I'm sure that Trump's team has figured this out, and they're not going to return any of these guys. And of course, the left wants to arrest officials in Trump's area for breaking the law and supposedly sending people away who had not had a fair hearing. And once you come into the United States, for the most part, you have the same rights as anybody else, whether you're a citizen or not. So you're entitled to a fair trial and an open hearing and all that. But this is really complicating the situation, and I don't see the president stopping, though. I mean, it looks like they're still carting people away, if not to El Salvador. They're taking them down to Guantanamo.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what's going to happen in the long run with these people at Guantanamo, but eventually we'll have to do something with them, because when the Democrats get back in, they'll just let them right out.
Yeah,
Just
exactly. That's kind of just defeats the whole purpose.
Mm-hmm. And remember, they did that with the terrorists that were at Guantanamo. I think Obama let some go, and Biden let the rest of them go, and they were returned to their Houthi tribes or whatever, and they're just going to start stirring it right back up, and they'll be even more vengeful because they were locked up for all those years.
And then they'll make their way back across the border, end up back over in America again.
Well, yeah, they'll foment more terrorism against the United States and Israel and everybody else. Now, the Israelis are not putting up with it. They've kind of taken over southern Lebanon and parts of Syria on the other side of the Golan Heights, which is a low mountain that separated Syria from Israel. And they captured that back in one of the Arab-Israeli wars back in the 60s or 70s. I can't remember exactly when it was. And they've refused to give it up. And you can't blame them, because the Syrians had batteries and outposts up on the hill above Israel, and they were firing down on the Israelis. So, of course, you're not going to do that. Your survival is first. Self-preservation is the first law. You miss that one, the rest of the day is pretty much lost. So the shopping trip is over. So you have to defend yourself, and you have to make sure that your people are safe. And I think that's what any good government does, without being offensive, but certainly defensive is okay. And I think the best defense is to have a strong offense in case you have to use it. So that's why we need to build our military back up to make sure that countries like China don't think they can come and push us around. And it's always a fatal mistake to engage us in war, because we are such a big country and we do have so many resources.
And people don't understand how much of a shock it would be if something like that happened on American soil. That's why we have to protect ourselves.
Well, but my crazy sisters are like, oh, well, we deserve 9/11. What are you talking about?
Right.
Most of the people that were killed in the World Trade Center were not even Native Americans. A lot of Indians and Orientals and different people who had immigrated to the United States and held jobs there. A lot of those people were killed, and they were not all Native Americans. They may have been Americans by citizenship and not by birth. So this is a bunch of nonsense, and my sisters are crazy. To hear them say that is just it. To me, it's shocking that people would think that we deserve to be attacked like that.
Yeah, that's crazy. I wouldn't wish that on anybody, let alone our own country.
No, and you don't want to wish bad things on people. You do want to protect yourself, though. And
yes, I want our military to be strong enough where if somebody looks and they start to think, well, we could do this. I want them just in the back of their mind that no, that's probably just not the best idea, because what they have over there is pretty serious.
Yep.
Or the retaliation that would happen scares people away. I mean, that's kind of like you were saying, the best defense is a good offense. If people know that's not the country to mess with, then most people don't, for the most part, unless you want the retaliation. And I don't think anybody wants that.
Yeah, I think the last time we were invaded was by some of the Mexicans around the 1900 era, and they sent Blackjack Pershing down there, and he made a few incursions into northern Mexico, but I don't ever think he caught Pancho Villa. I think Pancho Villa got away and became an important person in the Mexican government after they had gained their independence from whoever it was at that time. I don't know. I think they were under a dictatorship, and then they became a so-called democracy. I don't know how much of a democracy they are, but certainly there's a chance to vote. So at any rate, the Fourth Circuit Court has made it clear that you have to use the bond rule. You cannot make these decisions or hear these cases without the plaintiff posting bond. And so this is obviously illegal and unconstitutional, what he has done. And a lot of these cases are going to go away. They're going to melt right away once it gets to the higher courts. And it looks like Trump's winning some of these when they get up to the Supreme Court.
And I hate that it's always like pot calling the kettle black in these situations. Like, it's okay for one, but it's not okay for the other. They'll make a big stink about Trump breaking some laws, but then do the same thing just in a different way. I mean, breaking laws is breaking the laws, and if you're not breaking the law, you're not breaking the law.
Yep. I agree. I mean, it's really insanity that, and I don't think there's any other country on earth that would put up with this. I don't know, maybe there is, but part of that I'm sure is because of our openness and our democracy and the back and forth between liberals and conservatives. I don't know if there's a middle ground, but certainly letting everybody and his brother come in here, including criminals, is not a good policy. And we've seen how it has worked out. It's cost us a lot of money and a lot of heartbreak for families who have had losses from illegal and criminal elements coming into the country.
Yeah, and I don't know, I haven't been through the whole process, but it doesn't seem like it would be too hard to just get your paperwork and do everything like that. I mean, maybe it's different because I was native born and I didn't have to worry about that, but I mean, you're leaving your country. Obviously, you want to leave. There's a reason why you're leaving, so why wouldn't you want the protection of the country that you're going into, and why wouldn't you do everything you can to be a part of that country?
Well, I think that what we don't understand, because we're still somewhat law-abiding civil people, is that there are a lot of people that want to come here just to act up, be bad, and know they can get away with a lot of crimes and dishonesty and not go to prison. They know that they can hide. It's a big country. They know that the sanctuary cities will help them and defend them. And so they're not coming here to be Americans. They're coming here to make money and steal and cause havoc, or they're wanted in their own countries and they're escaping from prosecution.
And then on the other side of that, I mean, sometimes the American jails are a lot better than the situations they're in, and the consequences for what they were doing there are way more lenient here. I mean, you steal something in some other countries, they'll just chop off your hand. Or you go to a Mexican prison. It'd probably be like club fed, like going to an American jail compared to a Mexican jail or something like that.
Well, I'm sure that a lot of the state penitentiaries are nicer than anything we've seen in Central and South America. But now the federal prisons, although they're neat and clean and well built, that's rough time. You're doing hard time there, baby. And they don't let you out of your cell without chaining your arms and your legs. And there's 2 guards, and it's if you've done something really serious, you're going to be in a solitary cell for most, if not all, of your life. That's not easy.
Yeah, definitely not easy doing a time. But at some place, if you're not getting 3 hots in a cot, in some of these other places, maybe it's not as bad. And if you don't have to worry about, getting your hand chopped off or stealing something, of course you'd want to go and steal something in America than a country that does that.
Yep. You might as well take advantage of the situation if you have that personality that it's hell-bent on doing everything and anything you can to get what you want out of life. It seems to us, it seems ridiculous. I mean, you can make more money unless you're the highest guy in the food chain in a criminal gang. You can make more money by going to school and starting your own business or going to work for somebody, and you have the security of a job, you have the security of you're not going to be arrested, and you have the security that you can become a citizen of the United States and be a full participant in our democracy. But a lot of people don't think that way. It's just not in their mindset, and we have a hard time understanding that because we have lived a completely different life. And the United States, everywhere I go, there's just nothing like the United States. It's really unique here, really unique. So I see where the South Korean president was arrested this week, and I think that 4 or 5 of the last presidents of South Korea have all gone to jail. What? And even though Biden committed criminal acts, we're not going to go after him. You know, you have to respect the office, if not the man.
Exactly. And then he's still, I mean, for the rest of his life, him and his family are set. I mean, they're always going to have Secret Service around them for the rest of their lives. They're always going to get, I mean, their endorsements and all this type of stuff. So, I mean, they're pretty set.
Well, I think Trump pulled the Secret Service from Hunter and some of the other family members, but not from Joe, of course.
Yeah, of course, not him.
Joe and Jill and her girlfriends, who have destroyed our country or did their best to destroy the country. Why do people hate us? Why do they hate themselves? It doesn't make any sense. It's like slashing your wrist to do what they did. It doesn't make any sense. It's nonsense. So at any rate, now we've got the tariffs coming in, and supposedly, I don't know if this is true or not, but the Wall Street people are saying $5 trillion in wealth was lost in the market crash last week. I don't know if that's true or not. And everybody's wringing their hands and saying, oh, my God, what are we going to do? But we've seen these ups and downs before. In 87, the market crashed, and it came back within a year or two.
Yeah, strong.
Yeah, and we had a recession in the early 90s, but if you'd put $100,000 in the market at the bottom of the 87 crash, you'd be worth millions now.
Exactly. That's why I think everybody should just, I mean, I can't give financial advice, but I would say if my stuff, I'm just holding on and just going to bite my time and it'll come back up. It'll go back up.
I mean, if you're well diversified, don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of the crash was in the tech sector, as you know.
Yeah.
They were overinflated anyway, and they'll come back up. They'll come back up because nobody has the technology we have, and the tech sector is going to continue to expand and boom. And we've got AI, and we've got the quantum computers coming online, and I don't think there's anybody that's even close to us. I know the Chinese some Chinese company rolled out this deep search or whatever it was, but nobody's using it. It's not as good.
Yeah, so all we need to do is just have a place for this stuff to be built.
Yeah, and I agree with the president that we need to bring some industries back home, and we need to quit outsourcing everything, especially medications and our pharmaceuticals. We need to bring that back. I think that the auto industry is going to suffer a little bit, but they'll come through it okay. They've came through worse.
Well, I think I've seen Hyundai is actually building a plant in the States now. They're like I can't remember the exact number, but they were saying that Hyundai is actually going to be built in United States now.
Yeah, I think in Louisiana, isn't that where they decided to locate the factory?
I think so. I just can't remember the exact number of what they were investing, but I know it had a B on it. So if you're investing in billions, and that's good.
And, you know, the Chinese are struggling. Their economy was already a little rocky. And now one of their biggest markets, they're going to have limited access because of the high cost of imports. And one of the problems we've had here is that a lot of businessmen have said, well, I want to make money, so why not use the Chinese? They'll do it cheaper. And that's all well and fine. I mean, if you're in business, that's what you do is you try to save money and make money, and you cut your costs by going for less expensive production or whatever. But remember that doesn't come free. You know, it's somewhere you're going to have to pay. Somewhere you're going to have to pay. And now the Chinese, who have been so dependent on exports for their economy, we're not as dependent on exports as they are. Or the Canadians or the Mexicans. I mean, they're all very dependent on exports to keep their economies up, and so they're going to suffer. And the Chinese don't have the domestic purchasing of goods by people that we have here. And a lot of the young Chinese are saying, we don't know what's going to happen. The economy's uncertain. We're not going to go out and buy anything. So domestic spending is going down in China. So not only are they not bringing in as much foreign money with these tariffs, but their domestic spending is going down too. Now, what the Chinese do about that, I don't know. Previously, they would devalue their yuan, their dollar, and that way they could somewhat keep up. But if they devalue it too much, their attempts to make the yuan the world currency are going to certainly fall flat. It's a tough situation that they've got themselves into, and if they think they're going to make a lot of money on the Russians, they better think again. We have been one of their biggest trading partners, and that's going to come to a screeching halt here shortly, because American manufacturers and pharmaceuticals and all that are going to look at it and say, well, I can't afford to pay another 35% tariff on things we import, so we'll just make it here. And you say, well, how long will it take to ramp up? Well, that's going to be the problem, is how long will it take to ramp up? I mean, some things you can ramp up pretty quickly. Manufacture of a lot of generic medications can be ramped up and done quickly. But, there's some other things that are more technology intensive, but a lot of those things are already being made here, like the COVID vaccine and things like this. We developed that. We implemented that.
Right.
A lot of the new cancer drugs and biologic medications and all that, we developed all that, and that's here already. So I don't think it's going to have a huge impact. And in addition, we can cut deals with India, because Dr. Reddy, among other people over there, has a huge pharmaceutical industry. And that company, Dr. Reddy, they export to a lot of the world. And we've even had some of their stuff here. I've even had some that we have dispensed from our pharmacy that we bought. We buy generics in bulk and then break it down into dosages for acute situations like coughs and colds and rashes and bumps and things like that. And so we have that ability in our office. And some of the medicines that we got over the years were from Dr. Reddy. That company is one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies outside of China, I believe. They might be one of the biggest in the world now. So there are opportunities here, and I do think we'll see more people caving in to the president and what he wants. I see the Vietnamese have caved in already.
So would this maybe bring other countries to kind of sit at a table and be more civil now that everybody starts realizing, we depend on this country and this country for things, and just make everybody a little more civil instead of always trying to we'll just go to war, we'll do this. I mean, that kind of puts everybody on a little more level playing field.
Yeah, and I think the British are quietly making deals. The Israelis are coming over. We're seeing Southeast Asia countries coming back to us and saying, all right, can we make a deal? And one of the things the Vietnamese said is, well, if we buy cotton from the United States, can you lessen the tariffs on the goods that are produced here and shipped back to the United States from Vietnam? Funny, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a win-win almost.
Well, 50 years ago, we were at war with them.
Right.
And now they're desperate and they need us. So I think one of the problems is that the Chinese export so many raw materials to countries like Vietnam and Bangladesh and Malaysia that are then turned into finished goods and sold to the world market, including America, that we're trying to figure out some way to slow that down and increase our own domestic production of basic goods and commodities. And we should. I mean, we have a huge country. We've got tons of resources. I mean, if we started drilling and opening up our oil wells, we wouldn't need Canadian oil. But I mean, it's easier to buy it, and it helps the economies of both countries if we can get it a little cheaper from the Canadians, and then they have some income coming in. But if they don't want to play ball, well, there you go. And the prime minister up in Canada is puffing up his chest, and I'm going to fight the United States, and we'll stand strong. Hell, without us, they'll be dead. I mean, they can't. they cannot economically survive without the United States. We're their biggest trading partner, and they're one of our biggest trading partners. And you can say, well, what about timber and this and that? Well, they're already cutting deals on that. And like I said, the northern spruce could be easily replaced by the southern yellow pine, but the builders like the northern spruce better. It's easier to work with. Well, I mean, in this day and age, when you've got pneumatic nail guns, what's the difference? But
yeah, you're not hammering nails anymore. You're manually. You're just using your air gun.
You're slapping it together with a pneumatic gun, and I've got several of those. I build things with those.
Oh, of course. I mean, work smarter, not harder.
They make it so much easier, so much. And I've read studies that say if you use the right tools, even on small projects, you'll ultimately save time and money. So if you have something you want to put together like a box and you say, well, hell, I can just nail this together. By the time you get all that done and pull out the nails that you missed and so on and so forth, in half the time you could have done it with a pneumatic nail gun or stapler.
Yeah, because you still got to stand down where your hammer hit and all the little divots it puts in and everything else. I mean, it just makes perfect sense. Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, and I just made a pull-out drawer for my bathroom for underneath in the cabinet, which makes it a lot easier on me now that I'm getting a little older, and it's a little harder to stoop down and get everything and go down in there and try to see stuff when there's no light in there. And I got the clamps that are right angle clamps, so it held the box parts together. Got out my pneumatic stapler gun, and bam, 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 bam. I mean, it went so quick. It went so quick. And then it was made. You know, the hardest part was getting the runners on the box and connected to the walls of the cabinet, and that took a little bit more time because I had to shim it out and fiddle fart around because I was off a little bit on my measurements. But honestly, you know, and I know that we can do this all right here in the United States. And it may not be quite as cheap, but so what? You know, cough up a little bit more, tighten your belt. And a lot of the stuff we have is junk anyway. How much stuff do you have in your garage that you haven't used in over a year?
Oh, God, that's the truth.
I mean, you know, how much money have we wasted over the decades on garbage? It's just, and, you know, I'm going through everything every week and saying, well, I haven't used this in a year or two. I don't even know what the hell this is. And I'm throwing it out. And I may have paid big money for it.
Yeah, but
I have no idea why did I get that? What do I have this for? Am I using this? So it's probably a good time for all of us in the United States to reflect on what's important and what's not important. I mean, there's a lot of impulse buying that makes no sense. So,
yep, and I think it'd be good for the food industry and everything else like that. I mean, we can help these farmers out and start just buying everything in-house.
Yeah, and certainly the problem with the farmers is that we export a lot of food. That's probably one of our number one exports. And if everybody puts up trade barriers on that, then it'll be a problem for the agricultural industry. But we can figure out things, and I'm sure we can cut deals. And, you know, one of the big causes of the Civil War besides slavery were tariffs, because the South was exporting cotton and tobacco and whatever else they were growing to the European markets. And that brought in all of the foreign capital that came in the United States prior to the Civil War. So, interesting time in history, and they did not want the tariffs, the Southerners, hurt their industry.
Yep, I understand.
Yeah. All right, we're getting near the end of the show here, Guy.
Yep, we did. I had a pleasure spending time with you today.
It was fun. Yeah, I appreciate it. And remember, I'm Dr. Bill. I'm at 727-384-6411. 727-384-6411. We're at 6399 38th Avenue North, St. Petersburg, Florida. Come on in and be a patient.
Perfect. Great show, sir.